Hey, Crazy T, the movie guy here again. And in this one, I'm doing a review of the Back to the Future movies. Now, in the first one, there's this doctor who creates a time machine out of a DeLorean. And Marty, who is, uh, who is the one that goes in, it's hard to describe. Um, and then he gets called by the doctor to go see the machine. Then they send the dog first. They send the dog back in time, back in the future, and then he comes back. But then you find out that the doctor stole plutonium from the Libyans, and then and then they shoot him, and then Marty gets onto the DeLorean, and you have to put it to 88 miles an hour. 88 miles an hour for it to go back into time. And then while he even says those words, he's like, "Let's see if you bastards can do 90." And then he just goes right friggin' straight as fast as he could, and 88 miles an hour. He gets sent back in time where he meets his mom and his dad. But the thing is, his at the time, his mom fell in love with his son, with Marty, but it was back in the future, back when back long before Marty was born, and he tries to get his parents to go out with each other again. And Biff is on here. Biff is the big bully guy, and then he tries to get his parents back together, and he's in he's in 1955, I think, and he tries to get his parents to get back together, and then in the end, his father knocks out Biff who's trying to his attack what's her name, but 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 Marty's dad knocks the guy out, like boom, just knocks him out, and then they have this big love moment at the end where they're like, "Oh, you did a lot for our lives," and uh, Marty was like, they said, "Will we see you again?" And then he's like, "You bet it." And then he goes to the clock tower where the electricity thing hits the clock tower, and because that's the only way he can go back because he has no more plutonium. So um, so they used the thing with the lightning hits it, then it goes back in the future to the present time. But after he changed some stuff in the past, the future was different. He even owns that big truck that you can see in the beginning of the movie. Anyway, Back to the Future is one of the greatest movies ever. It's really good. I could watch it over and over. And now we're going to talk about Back to the Future Part 2. Now in this one, well, at the end of the first one, he tells him we have to go to the future, and he's like we don't got enough road to make it to 88, and then he's like, roads, Where we're going, we don't need roads. And then in the second one, during the future, like in the sky, and they talk about how his son in the future gets arrested for helping Biff's son, I think, rob a bank, and then Marty helps his future son out of it, and he helps his future son out of a robbery, and then they go into the future, but Biff, the old Biff, he actually steals the 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 time machine, takes it, brings it back, and then when they go back into the past, you find out that Biff changed the past. Biff changed the past, and then Marty finds out that his dad died, and his and then his girlfriend, Marty's girlfriend, ends up being in their house, Marty's new house, the future Marty, who also who also who also who also gets who also he also gets fired and from his job and stuff like that. And then they find out Biff actually, when old Biff went back in time, you find out that first Marty bought a book. First Marty bought a book which tells all the sports scores through the past year, through the past 50 years. And you find out that he took that and changed the future, and now he's this big king person, and he's married to Marty's mom in this future. So then, the almanac, the sports almanac, that's what it's called. The sports almanac. The sports almanac that got sent from old Biff to new Biff, from old Biff or whatever, and then Marty gets with the doctor, and they have to go back in time to stop Biff from getting the sports almanac, and they really do it. You even get to see him from the first one, but he's on stage, and then these other guys are going to going to jump the other Marty, and he just stops them, but he can't let them know he's there because it could change the timeline. And then at the end, he just they get the almanac, and then at the end, Doc the DeLorean just disappears, and then a guy comes up, and first he's like, no, 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 and then Doc delivers a message from the old Western days. saying a thing he gets sent in the mail by a guy that was still living in 1955, and he's like, he finds out that he's living in the Western days, but he's alive and he's in the Western days, and then he goes back, he finds Doc again, and tries to go back to the future, Western days, and that's what he does. And that is Back to the Future 2. And now I'm going to talk about Back to the Future 3, which is one of my favorites. It's the Western. He gets, he fixes the time machine, and he fixes the time machine, and then he hits it to 88 miles an hour, and then he goes back in time. And then when he's back in time, there's like Indians with their horses, and they're all coming at him, and he's like, ah, and he tries to hide the DeLorean, and then he meets up with the doctor, and then they have to try to find a way to get back to the year that they're supposed to. Then Doc falls in love with this lady, and then the ancient Biff tries to do, like, you know how they do in Cowboy Days, like they draw and shoot. That's what he tries to do, and he does it, but you think Marty's dead, but he's not. He just has a steel thing on his chest, which is really, really cool. And he comes up, and then they realize that the time is they have to get to the bus the train station, and they hooked the against the train tracks, and they had to push it to 88, and then it keeps going and going and going and going. And then when he gets back to the future, he destroys the DeLorean, because nobody can change the future, you know? Anyway, thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you in the future.